Hey everybody, it's Michael here. I'm just jumping on a couple minutes early just to set the stage here for this group clearing. So feel free to join me. Beautiful. Good. Welcome everybody. People are coming on board now. I'm just here a few minutes early, and I just invite you to get situated. We're going to start in the next couple of minutes. I wanted to just give a place for people to tune in. Sometimes it can be confusing, even with these groups, to know where do I go when this clearing happens. That's what I love about Facebook, is that the video, once it goes live, it just goes right into this Facebook group. So we're going to get started in the next couple of minutes. Those of you who are just joining us, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, cool. Thanks everybody for watching. I just invite you to get comfortable during this time. So whatever you need to do to help yourself get into a comfortable place, that's great. Please do that. Hey everybody. Great to have you on board. Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks everybody for being here. It's going to be a good time. You guys feeling the energy a little bit already? Yeah, cool. I want to say, just as we begin, too, if you want to write comments, if you have some questions, want to share comments, feel free to post below this video. I may not really get to those during the recording of this video, but I will check back through the group in the next day or two and respond to questions there. We have people from all over the world coming in. Hey everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. This is kind of cool, huh? The power of Facebook allows us to really come together in this wonderful way. And we have people from all over the world. If you want to post, if you're outside the United States, which many of you are, I just encourage you, if you want to post the country you're coming in from, that would be cool for other people to see. We're here in New York, and it's getting warm again today. It's been very, very hot. A little bit of relief yesterday, and it's getting back a little bit warmer today. Beautiful, beautiful. So I just invite you to relax, grab something to drink if you'd like. Maybe non-alcoholic would be better. Grab some tea, grab some water, whatever feels good to you. And we're going to dive in. We're going to do a little introduction. We're going to talk about a couple things, and we're going to dive into some clearing today. So no matter where you are when you listen to this clearing, even if you listen to it in the future, if you're not live with us today, not every time scheduling of these calls will work for everybody. It will still work for you because there's no time or space in spirit. And so, as many of you know who have found me originally through some of my videos, there's no difference listening to a video I've recorded a couple of years ago even, and listening live when it happens. Good. Still clearing here. Any of you feel the energy beginning already, or did you feel it when I first announced this? I started to announce it Friday. You might have noticed some changes in energy. I felt it pretty intensely coming in yesterday. It's not unusual for these kinds of clearings. And I like doing these kinds of events periodically. I do group clearings every month, at least twice, but these events in this Facebook group, these events online, I like doing because it allows us to be a little bit more interactive, and it allows us to go a little bit broader and to invite people in who might not normally participate, and allow me to narrate the clearing work in a live way so that you can hear and see and feel what's going on. You can ask questions as you're guided to. So I appreciate our connection here. Beautiful. Good. Okay. Well, why don't we get started now, officially? So I want to welcome you all to this video recording. We are recording this, if you're watching it any time in the future, we're recording this live in July of 2018. But as I said a moment ago, whenever you see this video, whether it's a day from now, a year from now, whatever it is the present moment for you. I think that there is some advantage sometimes to signing up for things in advance, because that way we're able to take into account your specific energetic pattern today as we work, and that helps us to be more customized for you. But still, there are tremendous benefits to this work whenever you see this video. I know I have a lot of connection to many of you. We're recording this originally live, so there's people we're interacting with now. I know I have a connection to many of you over the years or more recently, and many of you are familiar with this work, but I wanted to just give a little introduction to what we're going to be doing today, so you know how you might experience it, how you might interpret it, what we're actually going to be working on, and what changes you might expect in your own life. So this work today is a form of spiritual clearing work, which works in connection with your own higher intelligence, aspect of you that is very deeply connected to the infinite, connected to, you could say, God, you could say spirit, you could say the universe, you could say source, you could say just the state of beingness itself. And that state isn't something distant from you. It's something that's larger than just us individually, but it's also something that's innate to us, and it's at the depths of our being. And that's where all healing, that's where all manifestation, that's where all, really ultimately all activity that is building up, that is helpful, that is healing, that is joy-filled, that's where the qualities that we associate with higher consciousness, like love, like joy, like healing, like abundance, that's where all of these qualities come from. They come from this field, they come from this place, this energy. It's not a place in space and time, it's really a place within you. So this place not only is within you, this source, this presence that we can call spirit, or we can call aliveness, or we can call consciousness, is not only within you right now, but it's also within you fully. In other words, it's not really possible for you to acquire more of spirit. I don't know if many of us have really ever thought about that before, that we can't really acquire more. Someone like Ernest Holmes, who wrote some wonderful materials in the mid-20th century, Science of Mind, other types of materials, talked about this. He said something that he put into English that is also commonly talked about in other traditions, more ancient. He said that spirit is everywhere present in its fullness. And I just want you to take that in for a moment, this idea that we don't have to really try to acquire something, even if something in our life seems to be missing. Maybe something, some finances, some healing, some relationship that we're looking for, some aspect of our purpose that we're looking to manifest more. There may be some aspect in our life that seems like it could be missing. And these writings and these teachings talk about that spirit is everywhere present in its fullness. And so there's nothing more that we have to do to actually acquire spirit, and acquire, therefore, the qualities of spirit. If spirit is a state of consciousness that is basic, that is love, that is joy, that is healing, that is abundance, and that state, that consciousness is fully present within us, then the question becomes, why is it that we don't experience that more often or all the time? If spirit is fully present in and as us right now, why is it that we don't experience it continuously? And that's a really interesting question, I think. I'm glad I asked it. So, this idea that this confusion around this issue is what has led us to project the idea that spirit is something outside of us, that we have to constantly pray and ask for things if we're into spiritual stuff or we're into religious stuff, we sometimes believe or have been taught, even over hundreds of years, that we have to acquire it somehow outside of us. We have to ask for, yes, we might believe in spirit, we might believe in God, but we have to ask for it, we have to acquire it, we have to hope God's feeling okay that day, we have to hope that we've been, we've been naughty or nice, we don't really know, God's making a list, or is that Santa Claus? I'm not really 100% sure. It's kind of the same thing. So we don't know, how do we acquire this divine energy? Why isn't it showing up in its fullness right now? Even in my background and tradition, which is Christianity, it says there that we were created in the image and likeness of, you could say, God's spirit, ultimate reality. It even says it right there. So if that's true, then why isn't it showing up in its fullness all the time? And this issue is that we've created restrictions and blockages in our own being due to our identification with our density, you could say, due to a progressive, illusory sense that we have acquired over the course of our soul's history. We were created in this fullness, in this high consciousness, and yet we have chosen to come into this world to experience contrast, to experience growth, and to experience learning. And when we do that, we have begun to forget about our interconnectedness, and we've begun to identify with what is happening in our world of our five senses. We see, oh, there's this problem, this challenge happening. We see in the five senses, in our sight, in our touch, in our hearing, we see certain things are missing. We feel like we don't have enough. And we begin to not take that experience in our sense reality and come back into our spiritual sense and say, you know what, even though I'm experiencing this in my physical, I still feel plugged in and connected to this infinite source within me. We don't often do that. What happens is that we judge or we identify with the limitation. And we say, okay, this thing in my life isn't showing up, therefore I'm limited. Therefore it's being withheld from me. Therefore I don't have enough. Therefore I'm disconnected. Therefore I'm fallen. Therefore I'm sinful. Therefore, all of these things that we have made up collectively and individually to justify our own ignorance, our own judgments, our own lack of understanding, our forgetfulness about who we really are. And it really is only a state of forgetfulness. It's not a punishment. None of the things that we're experiencing challenging in life are punishments. They're not coming from some negative ultimate deity or even some positive deity who's trying to test us, saying, well, that Michael down there, we're going to really test him. We're going to give him some, we're going to give him some lack and limitation. We're going to give him some health challenges. We're going to give him some inability to find a certain relationship he's looking for, lack of success. We're going to give him all of those things and test him. That's not the way the universe works. We have, remember I said earlier, we have this infinite presence, all needs met, this consciousness, the originating source consciousness, fully present within us, even if we don't remember it. It's fully present now. It was fully present in the beginning of our soul's journey, even if we don't remember it, even if we don't feel it. And I'm not just sort of spouting a theoretical knowledge right here to you. This has become my experience. And this actually forms the basis of the spiritual clearing and healing work I do now. And I would say that it ultimately forms the basis of all holistic approaches to healing. Holistic meaning tapping into the wholeness of ourselves, of the universe. This idea, this reality that spirit is already fully present in its fullness within us right now. And we are here to uncover that or recover that. We're not here to acquire it. See, what I just said is that it's already there, but we have created many layers of our own blockages. Our blockages are created by ourselves, not because we did something fundamentally wrong, not because we were intentionally trying to block ourselves or someone else, or we're just fundamentally in error about something. It's nothing that serious, actually. We created it because we just forgot temporarily the truth about our own being. And that forgetfulness happened gradually. It happened with a little bit of a sense of separation from spirit. Then it happened with an identification with that. And then we began to manifest limitations from that little sense of separation, which then began to get us even deeper. You know how it is when you, like, I've been thinking about donuts lately. I'm not really eating them right now, but I do love them. You know how if you want to have a donut, it might be okay and probably preferable for you to buy one. Now, if you go to buy a dozen, it's going to be very tempting after you have one to want to go back for more, up to and including perhaps the whole dozen. And so what's that analogy meaning in this case? It means that, one donut might make us feel like, kind of initially good, but then after about 10 minutes, not so good maybe. But a dozen donuts just compounds that to a deeper degree, right? It might be like, I can't do anything the whole rest of the day. I have to sleep. I have blood sugar crash. I have, road rage. I have irritability. So what I'm saying is that one little point of doing something out of a little bit of ignorance of who we truly and authentically are, it's not such a big deal. But when we begin to identify with it, hold on to it, that's become part of our identity. We begin to therefore use that, add that little bit of limitation as a starting point for creating more from that place of ignorance. We eventually begin to descend. We descend in consciousness into a deeper state of seeming separation from spirit. And that's where all of our problems in life are. Our problems in life begin from and come from our consciousness, and the part of our consciousness that they're coming from is our ignorance about who we truly are, authentically and truly are. Now, we can read a powerful spiritual book and have a recollection about who we are. I love some of the books of Eric Butterworth, and I love some of the books of Joel Goldsmith, and of course Louise Hay is wonderful, and there's a lot of wonderful authors out there who really remind us about the truth of our being. And there's something that can click into us when we begin to read those books. We say, yeah, there's something here. There's like an activation in our consciousness that can begin to happen. Then we can feel frustrated sometimes that, well, I understand more of this truth, but why does it seem that I can't quite connect all the dots of how does this truth I'm reading about and recognizing in my own being in this book, how do I manifest that? How do I experience that in my life? And why am I not experiencing it already? So this issue is the issue that, remember I said a moment ago that we had a first belief that we were a little bit separated from original spirit. Then as we began to build on that belief, we began to get lower and lower in consciousness. That's called sort of the descent into illusion. Now, this issue is not just a mental issue, and it's not just a present lifetime issue. So in order for us to really wake up out of it, it's the beginning point of that is for us to begin to entertain the possibility in our own mind that there's something more that we can experience in life than what we're currently experiencing. That's the beginning. That's what happens when we have a remembrance in the book, for instance. We remember there's something in this book that's awakening my consciousness. Now, how do I experience that? Well, what's happened is that over the course of our soul's history. Now, our soul's history, this is news to some of you, has been very long. You could even say it's really infinite. It's hard to pinpoint where's the time and space where we, as maybe an individual spark or an individual wave in the ocean of source, began to be somewhat individuated, began to become an individuated identity. It's hard to pinpoint that exactly. In some research, there's hundreds of thousands of lifetimes that most souls, at minimum, have experienced, both in the physical world, perhaps here on Earth, perhaps in the non-physical world. It's sort of, you're individuated, but you're not in a physical body. This may sound kind of weird, but this is a possibility. So over that time, we begin to accumulate. And what begins to happen is that wherever our level of consciousness is, based on source consciousness as my being, and based on then all of the overlays of what I have identified myself as on top of that. I've identified myself as limited. I've identified myself as I'm only this body. I've identified myself as all of the things other people think about me. I've identified myself as all the things I think about me. I've identified myself as all the things in the past that I felt like I should have been able to do differently, but I didn't. All of this stuff creates this ongoing limitation that we are creating ourselves. The thing is, as we create this consciousness, remember, a thought form, a consciousness is created through our thinking, through our feeling, through our spirit, through our perception. This stuff doesn't just go away when we create it. It often just hangs around. It's impossible to destroy consciousness, even though it's not physical. It's once it's set in motion, we set a lot of fear, we set a lot of anxiety, we set a lot of worry, we set a lot of shame, a lot of guilt in motion. This stuff tends to hang around. As human beings in general, we're not super great oftentimes at immediately composting, recycling, translating, transmuting, alchemizing all the energy that we're creating that's limiting. I don't know about you, but I am not great at that. I have not been great at that in the past, and I'm learning and getting better at that as I get more aware of, wait a minute, how am I creating right now? Do I want to be creating that? And if I do go ahead and create that, if I do go ahead and eat that dozen donuts, okay, so let me do some juicing afterwards. Let me do a couple of days of eating lighter so I can clear that stuff out of me. Same thing is happening in our consciousness. So let me bring this back all around for a moment. The limitations that we're experiencing in life now are the result of the accumulation of the consciousness that we have miscreated due to our false understanding, our limited understanding of who we are. And we didn't recycle, compost, we didn't translate that energy into something empowering, we didn't clear it, we didn't release it. So it began to accumulate within our consciousness. And wherever our consciousness is as a net result of what we have been creating in the past, say I created a ton of fear yesterday. Let me just say that, for example. Say I created a ton of fear, a ton of anxiety. I didn't realize I was doing this. I wasn't trying to do it. It was just I didn't feel like I had any option to doing that. Okay, we've all probably been there at different points in our life with different types of energy. Didn't feel like we had autonomy or sovereignty over our consciousness to have a different experience. So I created a bunch of fear. And I went to sleep with that. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't have the tools at my disposal to be able to deal with it. So today I wake up and that energy of fear that I've created in myself is still there. I might feel a little bit like, okay, I slept on it. Some of it got processed. Maybe I feel in a different place than the triggeriness I might have felt yesterday, but we still can be in this place today of that energy we created is still active within our consciousness. Therefore, what happens is that we can calibrate all of the levels, the different high or low relative positions of these levels of consciousness, of different states like fear, like worry, like shame, like guilt, and also like unconditional love, like joy, like peace, like abundance. These all have different states. As we have that energy of fear within us, it becomes our starting point for how we are beginning to operate our day to day. Even though it was created in the past, it becomes our point today of this is where I'm beginning my day today. This probably makes a lot of sense. We know this more consciously sometimes. Say we've been in a big fight with someone, there's been a lot of difficulty going on. You can feel the energy of that, and hopefully whoever it is in your life that you've been through that with, you can begin to talk about it and resolve some of it so that it doesn't just accumulate, it doesn't just stay with both of you for the long term. Now, the way our minds work, our conscious minds, the way our nervous systems work, is that even if we feel a very intense amount of emotional pain, over the course of time, we will tend not to feel as actively or consciously that same degree of pain. This is where the phrase "time heals everything" comes from, right? You've heard that phrase before. It's not a true phrase, but people tend to believe that because they feel like, wow, I felt all this. I felt very upset a few weeks ago. I felt very angry, and now I feel kind of So they think, oh, well, time heals all. Now I'm feeling not quite as bad, as triggered, as actively as I was then. What I would say, though, is unless we've gone through a process of really transmuting that energy, composting it, alchemizing, in other words, translating the energy of fear and anger, using the energy that gets locked up in that limited state of consciousness. It's a limited state, but there's energy there that's being locked at a state that's limited by fear. If all of our energy is in that state of fear or anger, it's not available for manifestation of healing. It's not available for manifestation of money or of success in career. It's not available for harmonization in relationship. The states of consciousness of harmony in relationship and the state of consciousness of anger are completely different from each other. If our consciousness is still invested either in the conscious mind or in our subconscious, in our database, in the accumulation of consciousness that we have not dealt with over the course of not just this past day, not just this past week, but over the course of our entire soul's history. That's where this starts to become interesting. Infinite soul's history, hundreds of thousands of lifetimes. Whatever we haven't composted and transmuted in those lifetimes is still active within us, even if we have no conscious memory of it. It's operating as our net state of consciousness on a daily basis. We can tell exactly where our state of consciousness is by how easy life feels for us, how joyful life feels, how successful, how in the flow life feels for us. And so what I'm saying is that the accumulation of this energy, when we don't know how to, we don't have the skills, we don't have the awareness of how to process this energy, it stays with us. Like those donuts I referred to earlier, stuff like that can store in the body. The organs of the body, the tissues of the body can have lots of stuff from old food we've eaten, especially when there's a lot of toxins and chemicals and stuff in that stuff. It can really get into the cells of the body and take some deep cleansing to get it out. But this, say someone is exposed to toxins, even like heavy metals, pesticides, all sorts of things. If you were exposed to that through just you didn't know that you were going to be exposed to that, or you ate food that had that stuff in it, or was in your environment, if you're exposed to that at 5 years old, it's still with you at 50 years old if it hasn't been purged yet, if it hasn't been cleared. And that energy, just because you don't remember it, just because it may not be part of your day-to-day thought process or day-to-day knowledge as you go about your day or your day of eating or whatever you're doing, doesn't mean that it's not affecting you. And this is the same exact thing in our consciousness. So what I'm saying is that this is the definition of karma. If you've been confused about what karma is, how is it that my own, why is it that I can't seem to do or activate or attract what it is that I'm wanting in life? One of the most major reasons, I'm not saying it's absolutely the only reason, but I'm saying one of the most major reasons is because of this accumulation of limited consciousness that we have, that we often are not even aware of except in our results. We can see it in our results. We're not aware that we have this limitation coming in from our own subconscious, from our own false and limiting ideas about who we are, what's happening to us, what our relationship is with the universe. We have created that. It's not a punishment. It's not God, whatever our concept of God is. It's not God withholding something from us. It's not that we're not part of the right religion or part of the right spiritual group or not reading the right book. Or it's not any of those things. It's that each one of us has accumulated many, often, false beliefs, false identities. We've stuck in with that energy. And what I mean by that is the belief that we are doing it wrong, judging ourselves, this shouldn't be happening, belief that life isn't for me, life is against me, belief in lack and limitation, belief that there's not enough. All of these things, fear, having constant fear, having anxiety, worry, these are states of being that are extremely limiting to us. They don't ultimately serve any positive purpose in our lives. Many of us do not know how to get out of experiencing those things because they're so habituated in our consciousness. But what I'm saying is that as we begin to compost and resolve this latent energy within us, what happens is that the net result is that our entire consciousness begins to rise. As our consciousness begins to rise, we come back into greater and greater experience and rapport of the fullness of spirit that's already present within us. Remember, I started this recording by saying, whatever you want to call it, spirit, God, life, source, consciousness, this presence, the creative presence of the universe, the infinite presence of the universe, the presence that is both above all and in all, it's transcendent, it's immanent. It's underneath all and it's above all. That presence is fully available, fully present within you, within me right now. It's fully there. You don't have to acquire any more of it. All we have to do is to be able to release it, to realize it, to set it free within us. This is the opposite of what is taught in the West about health and about spirituality. In the West, we're taught that we have to acquire more of God. We have to get the stuff that God, as a separate being, has. We have to beseech, pray, beg, invite, and get that stuff to come in. We're taught, for instance, around health, that health is something that some people just don't have. If you have disease, it means you don't have health, and you have to find a way to acquire it. And it's going to be really expensive, and it's going to be really difficult, and someone else in some exotic laboratory somewhere has to figure out, hopefully someday, with enough millions of dollars, they have to figure out how to fix it. But this paradigm is the opposite of what is true. The paradigm in the East is more of that this state of health, the state of abundance, the state of oneness with spirit, oneness with consciousness, the fullness of love, harmony and relationship, this state of unconditional love, this state of contentment, satisfaction, peace, this state of fulfillment, this state of your unique giftedness, what you're here to do and to give on the planet, that this is already within you. Because we're not just here in the East, we're not just here as a product of some random, fish in the ocean eventually acquiring feet. That's the Western paradigm is we're just a bunch of chemicals that are worth about 87 cents, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. We're random, so good luck. In the East, we're looked at as we are God in human form. We've temporarily forgotten, we've temporarily limited that capacity. Not God as in the dude in the sky. I'm talking about the infinite aliveness, ultimate potential, ultimate reality. We are that in human form. And what we're doing is we're working out. We're through our awareness, through our inner practices, through clearing work like we're going to do now, through meditation, through affirmative prayer, through sacred fellowship, through moving the body in holistic ways, through right eating, what's appropriate for our bodies, through getting in touch with and entering into the silence of the heart to say, what is it that is mine to do on this planet, in this body, in this lifetime, through going inwards, through releasing the aliveness that's within us. That's how we acquire the things that are missing, seemingly missing in life. That's how we acquire. If health is missing, we acquire it by releasing it from within. If abundance is missing, we acquire it by releasing the consciousness from within us. If the right romantic relationship or friendships or community is missing, we acquire it by releasing our limitations, clearing our karma, releasing our limitations, transmuting, alchemizing, composting that old energy so that we can rise in consciousness back into more of who we already are, God in physical incarnation, and we can therefore come into harmony with that quality. It occurred to me this week that God is simply a state of consciousness, really nothing more or less than that. God is a state of consciousness. So when you realize that, and you realize that even in this clearing work that we can do, developing ways to be able to calibrate where people are at in consciousness based on a scale of universal energies, we can tell to some extent how much in rapport, how much are we setting free that divine energy. This is not a judgment thing like, wow, that person over there is in low consciousness. No, this is something to look at compassionately and holistically, saying the reason why you're having challenges in life is because you're only setting free a very limited amount of the divine consciousness within you. And it is your job, first and foremost, to find a way to set free more of that consciousness. Doesn't that feel super empowering when we say it that way? We don't have to keep trying to figure out, how do I get this stuff to work in life? We come into a greater state of consciousness within ourselves. We start with God. We start with Spirit. We start with opening. We start with us. We start with our personal process, whatever is unique, perfect, and right for each of us. We lift the consciousness. I like to use the term, we feel plugged in. Let me give you an example of that. We start there. If we go about our day, many people in the Western world especially, but this is happening really all over the world now because Westernism is sort of everywhere. Many people start their day with like the annoying, obnoxious alarm after a night of restless or not enough sleep, and then they plug in with stimulants. You know, they have the coffee, they have maybe they don't have time for breakfast, and then they just drive, traffic, and whatever. They sit in the cubicle all day, and there's no air circulation, and they may be spending their day doing things that they don't really enjoy. And they come home, and you know, maybe they throw something in the microwave, they veg out in front of the news programming, and then they hit the bed, and maybe don't sleep very well that night either. Now, there's nothing ostensibly wrong with that if that's where we're starting from, but what's missing in all of that is that, and the reason why that tends to self-perpetuate and people find it difficult to, in that state, to figure out, okay, well, why am I not getting the things in life that I really want to get? I'm going to break it down for you one more time here, that the reason is because we haven't plugged in to the infinite at any point during that day. We haven't taken 5 minutes even to sit, whatever it is for us. For some people, it's sitting in meditation. For some people, it's chanting. For some people, it's prayer. For some people, it's reading a spiritual passage. For some people, it's movement. For some people, it's breath work. For some people, it's juicing. Let's fill in some of the gaps here if you want to post in about any of your particular ways of connecting in with the infinite, but we're not plugging in to the infinite. So we're going about our entire day in our own, identified with our own limited human consciousness, identified with all of our stuff that we have created and carried in with us into this life. We're operating from that false sense of self-judgment that we have created, rather than first connecting in to and beginning to open to activate the infinite spirit that is within us. If there's no time in the day in which we plug in or connect to that infinite spirit, there is absolutely nothing that can be done to really help you, except all of the stuff that everyone's trying already on the planet that doesn't seem to really work so well anyway. Like, you know, whatever it might be. In the medical world, if we're not going to plug in to the infinite within us, then, you know, we're going to have to give you toxic medications that might make side effects might be even worse than the condition. If we plug in to the spirit within us, we might feel inspired and say, you know what, from this place of plugging in, let me just give you an example for a moment of when we plug in around health. And sometimes plugging in around health, yes, I see as you're saying, Patricia, sometimes as we're plugging in around health, movement can be a great way to do that, because movement begins to activate the energy within us. Whatever feels perfect and right for you. If you can't really move much, breathing. Breathing is a form of energy movement. When you activate that and you just feel, there's a moment that begins to happen in your practice where you hopefully will get to a place where you feel, yeah, I feel like I've just dropped into the sacred within me. I've dropped out of such a strong identification with the problem, with the story, with the issue going on, and I've dropped into and just plugged in. Even if it doesn't feel like all of you is plugged into it, if it doesn't feel like it lasts very long, it's not going to last all day for everybody at the beginning. You've plugged in, you've connected, you've felt that within you. You felt that sacred yes factor within you. When you operate there, you begin, say on the issue of health, you begin to feel, you feel plugged into love, you feel plugged into higher consciousness, you feel more plugged into the energy of that which can empower you, that which is loving towards you. You might feel like, you know what, I feel empowered to try something new. I feel empowered to call this person. I feel empowered to try this healing practice. As you feel more and more that connection, as you act from that place of connection, you begin to unfold, you begin to unwind, and you begin to bring that energy of spiritual consciousness into your physical reality. So, I want to get to the clearing work specifically, though I think the Infinite has been clearing you throughout the course of this clearing anyway. So, I want to plug in more specifically with you now in a very special way. And this is the way that I have been developing. It's one of the most important practices for me, and it's what I do with my full-time work in clearings like this, on occasion, videos, group clearings, individual work. We work with now the connecting with your higher consciousness, as I mentioned earlier. That part of you knows exactly what it is that we have created over the course of our infinite soul's history, and knows what is limiting us now. Based on our unique place in our process today, or based on our unique readiness and willingness today, when you listen to this video, that higher consciousness is going to help us to be able to resolve, to compost, to alchemize, to clear, to transmute the heavier energies that are lowering our consciousness into energies that empower our consciousness. I'm going to sort of talk you through this more as we work. Question someone has about that is, how is that possible? I thought we had to live through all of that and know what it is consciously and work through it consciously. There is a mystical presence and alchemy within us that already understands exactly where our readiness, where our willingness, where we are on our path. If we had to consciously go in and figure out, oh, wait a minute, I remember having that judgment 35 lifetimes ago. If we had to go in and try to figure that out consciously, we would never be able to get to the end of it. Because there's so much of it. For people, the karmic energy is not small for most people. It's really large. It's even the case that for many of our lifetimes, the vast majority of the energy that we've created has been what you might call karmic in nature. In other words, it's mostly limiting energy that we've created. It's not like 50-50. Like, well, sometimes I'm in unconditional love 50% of the day, and 50% of the time I'm in fear, and that's just the way it's been for my soul's history. No. For the vast majority of us, myself included, most of our lifetimes have been struggle, strain, pain, difficulty, lack, limitation, disease, and worse. As we descend into, the collective descends and we descend into this density, we begin acting and reacting out of intense states of feeling and perceived separation and feeling and perceived limitation. If I am completely inundated with my consciousness of fear, anxiety, worry, shame, guilt, and I'm not in touch, like there's almost no part of my being that's in touch with my higher consciousness, then I am going to continue to create from that place. I'm going to project it onto you. I'm going to draw you into that vibration. It's going to spread out into the collective. And we see this continuously happening in the world even today. So, I want us to get into this clearing state now. So we're going to have an experience of this. Many of you have posted lots of specific requests, which I think is awesome. That's what I asked for. Before we formally begin, I want to say that the infinite already knows what it is that you need to work on today. My guidance is that we're not going to work on anything specific, but we're going to work on everything that you need to have worked on. So you can rest assured about that. The problems and challenges that we're having are sometimes really, really good entry points for us to focus. Say someone's having a very specific challenge. We can use that, begin to uncover that, and then that gives the feedback of the individual to be able to say, wow, I really sense there's a shift happening in this area of my life. Today, because we're working with so many people and because there are so many topics, I like to think this group dynamic is also, we're all working for each other as well. Some of the challenges that one of you have mentioned are also challenges that others of us have here, but that we might not even be aware of, or it might not be manifesting or expressing right now. I will also say that we are never clearing the problem. People talk about, I want to clear this problem. I want to fix this problem. But we're not actually ever doing that. That's a very Western mindset idea. That we're going to fix the problem, we're going to cut it out, we're going to burn it out, we're going to take that part of you out of you. That's not what we're doing in this work. So the problem is never what's getting transmuted. It's only ever you. You are coming into a greater consciousness, you're coming into a greater release, resolution, and as you do that, the problem begins to dissolve on its own. That's the yin perspective. That's the perspective of clearing in the subconscious, clearing in the soul records, the Akashic records, the past lives, the present lifetime, clearing the stuff that we're holding on to from that level. As we do that, we begin to rise in consciousness into a place that transcends the need for the problem altogether. We're not healing the problem. We're not fixing the problem. We can use the problem as an entry point, for sure. That's what I ask people all the time. Tell me what's going on. And then I want to say that we are only ever really working with you. You are the law unto your life. And what you're programmed in consciousness to be doing and having the experience of, that's your point of a relationship with the infinite right now. If your consciousness is completely at the level of fear, you're going to manifest everything that's associated with that: lack, limitation, disease, pain, negativity. Those things are the results of consciousness. They're not problems in and of themselves. So the Eastern model, again, is that the idea of dis-ease, whether it's emotional, mental, whether it's in our relationships, our finances, whether it's in our body, is the result of stagnation or blockage of energy. It's not the result of something in particular called disease acting upon you. There's not something particular called poverty, called lack or limitation that's acting upon you. This has been taught as the devil and God idea. There's a devil out there, and he's trying to get your soul by giving you all these bad things, and there's God out there who's trying to give you all these good things, and they're just fighting it out. That's what I was raised in. It's just not the case. All there is the presence as you, and we are in varying degrees of releasing that presence. To the degree to which we are fully releasing the presence, to that degree we are experiencing life as joyful, as easy, as loving, as fulfilling, as prosperous. All of these beautiful things. To the degree to which we're not, we are experiencing life through the lens of the content, through the lens of the problems. We can shift that, though. And so we're going to do that now. I'm just going to grab a little bit of tea. What am I drinking? I'm drinking chaga reishi tea. I'm going to be doing a class on that sometime soon. I want to teach people to how this can benefit them and other factors to nourish their life force. But I want you all to get comfortable now and just relax. I want you to take a couple of deep breaths. You can close your eyes if you want. If you want to just put me on in the background, sound of my voice, fine. Some people fall asleep at this point of the work because the energy begins to move more, and it can feel like deep healing and release taking place. Whatever's perfect and right for you is okay. Now, this work will affect different people in different ways for a couple of reasons. One is depending on what you need to resolve right now, and depending on your readiness and how you've prepared yourself through your spiritual practices to be receptive to the infinite. The infinite could clear everything for us in no time at all. That doesn't happen, though, because we're only so ready to let go. And so as we practice letting go, meditation, prayer, all the things I've been talking about, we are preparing ourselves to release our content so that we can release our problems, so that we can release back into spirit. And so we're going to begin formally now. I'm going to ask the infinite, the power of the infinite in this moment, to gather us all into this clearing, each one individually and as a group, and to begin running our initial clearing process. And I want you to just feel and breathe. So I am not the one clearing you. I want to be clear on that. This is not me doing the work for you, though I am involved with the clearing. So I look at my role as a facilitator. The energy in this group is, or the energy for clearings that I do in general, flows through me. And so I'm able to give feedback to people based on what the energy is doing. And through my own practice and experience and my own connection, I'm able to help hold that space for others. So that, I think, is the role of what might be called a healer. A healer is never, as we all know who are such a profession, healer is never doing the healing for someone, and yet there is a significant role there. We are holding a certain space through our own practice, through our own techniques, through our own consciousness. I work I don't want to say hard, but I work very thoroughly on myself every day to be able to come into a place where I can facilitate this work with some facility and some ease. There we go. So we're asking the infinite in this moment to work with each person in this group, to work with their higher consciousness, to clear all the blocks to the maximum benefit of this work today for this entire group. I'm going to say a few things verbally here just to let you all know what I'm actually asking for. And you might be able to correlate what I'm saying a little bit with your experience of the clearing as it begins to work with you. We're asking in this moment to clear each person in this group to a place of 100% receptivity, openness, availability, willingness, and allowing of 100% of the benefits of this clearing today. Just accept and receive that. We're here today to transmute old energy. You may not know you're carrying with you, but it's a limiting factor in some way. We're here to set free the energy of the infinite that's within you, the energy of spirit that's within you. It is you. It's actually the truth of your being. And just breathing. Beautiful, beautiful. The clearing itself, even though I talk in the course of my clearings, whether they're audio recordings or videos like this, the clearing is not really what I'm saying at all. Saying anything is not really necessary. The clearing happens in silence. This is interesting. I could be, say you were aware a clearing was happening for you and we were sitting together and you were just kind of calmly there. We could do the entire clearing in silence without any content really coming up at all. I sometimes use words in order to focus intentions and to let the people I'm working with know what it is that we're doing. Any of you feeling, you don't have to post about it if you don't want to, any of you feeling energetic movement within yourself? So a couple ways that you may feel this work. If you're new to it, you may feel lightheaded, you may feel tired, you may feel tingly or buzzy. You may feel, if you've been dealing with some physical issues, you may feel those physical issues get intensified or different sorts of pains arise in the body. If you've been dealing with emotional issues, you may feel emotional issues come to the surface. This is not anything wrong. This is not anything bad with this work. This is actually good. This work is all about helping to open you and helping to clear energy that's been held, and sometimes that comes through as energy, emotional content, comes through as physical pain, physical sensation. So still working here, Spirit, we're asking again the infinite initial clearing process to continue to work with each person. We ask you to transmute. I'll say a few of the things I commonly say in my individual and group clearings. We're asking to resolve the energy of identification with our content, or what we call the negative ego. Resolving all that identity energy into identifying with the consciousness behind the content. Yeah, beautiful. We are spirit in a body. We are not the content. Beautiful. We're asking for an infinite space clearing protocol for each person's space within a 1,000-foot radius. We're also asking for an infinite energy balancing process to clear, heal, balance, open, align, repair, transmute, reconnect, activate, fill with light all of the DNA, all of the chakras, chakra complexes, channels, connections, energy bodies, templates, levels, layers of the aura, all of the meridian channels. Just asking for that beautiful work to begin to happen for this group. Yeah, good, good. And just notice if you're feeling any discomfort in any part of your being, sometimes there's energy that wants to move. And so if you breathe into that area, breathing is such a great entry point of our conscious choice and our intersection with the infinite. Beautiful. We're asking for 100% of all programs and investments of consciousness, of self-punishment, self-blame, self-hatred, self-restriction, to be resolved for this entire group. And we're asking for that to be resolved in all contexts. That includes context of this lifetime, but also all previous lifetimes. So we're opening up and connecting in this process to the infinite record of your soul as well. And we're asking verbally in this moment to begin to open and to begin to work with, throughout the course of this clearing, infinite depths, levels, layers, bodies, minds, all realities, all lifetimes, all expressions of consciousness in spirit, in the physical body, in the earth, in other places. So we can really begin to open up that whole database of the subconscious without really having to know what a lot of the content is. And by working with this higher intelligence, this aspect of your own being that already knows exactly where you're at, what you're ready for, where you have been on your soul's journey, this part of you is going to be working overtime today with your soul records to help resolve, as I said, transmute energy. The result is that there can be feelings of clearing happening, but in my opinion, we're not really clearing anything. What we're doing is we're whenever we create something like fear, there is a powerful energy there that gets limited in a lower energy state. But that energy is still divine energy. It can't be destroyed. It can't be just like, oh, now I don't have that energy anymore. What happens in this work is that as we grow and evolve in consciousness, the energy that we've invested in those lower states, like fear, begins to be freed up for more higher states, like love, like forgiveness, like acceptance, like courage, like peace. Good. We're asking you to continue to clear spirit for this entire group, clearing each person to a maximum of 0% blocking or obstructing. Spirit, if there are any vested interests in this clearing that are coming in for any person here today that are resulting in anything being lied about, denied, cursed, avoided, hidden, blocked, obfuscated, restricted, pushed down, Spirit, we ask that all of that would be released now. We also ask that if we as a group or any individual here are carrying programming for the collective mass consciousness of fear, worry, guilt, shame, anxiety, abdication, anger, hatred, all of this, we ask that all of that would be resolved now. And all of the reasons for that in consciousness would also be resolved. I just want you to surrender into the clearing a little bit more. Some of you are really holding especially in the heart. Maybe you're not wanting to experience emotions coming forward, but I just invite you to, you're not holding anyone back but yourself in this process. And if you can free yourself in the work, you're going to free your life force energy. If you do that, you're going to be able to deliver your gifts in a more fulfilling, authentic way on the planet. That's what all of us need you to do. We all need each person to deliver their gifts authentically and fully. Imagine that happening. It starts with us. It starts with those of us who are consciously aware that that's a possibility. Now I'm asking for this clearing of energy that we're holding for the collective. Some of you might feel like, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to do that, that's part of my mission, or I'm supposed to hold everyone's energy or whatever. I want to encourage you that that is optional. You do not have to be doing that. As a matter of fact, I would say that it's less helpful and useful to feel that you have to carry other people's energy. That's why I ask for this to be cleared every time I work with someone. There we go. Because by going into the sympathetic vibration, say someone is in fear in our lives, and we're like, okay, well, I'm an empath. You know, most people I work with are empaths. I'm an empath, so let me go down to that vibration with them and feel it with them, and maybe I'll help them from that place. All we're really doing is reinforcing that energy and that vibration when we go down with someone into their content. The other option is for us to raise our vibration to such a high place that we feel better and we become a transmuting factor for the consciousness of others. This is what Jesus talked about when he said, I am lifted up and I draw all unto me. He meant I'm lifted up in consciousness into the infinite, into enlightenment, into high spiritual consciousness. And that factor is hugely, it's been talked about a lot in the work of David Hawkins, it's hugely transmutative to the planet. So if you have any conscious ideas now that, well, I can't feel good because of what's going on in the world, or I can't feel good because of, Mercury retrograde, or whatever people like to talk about and post about on Facebook, please just let that go. You do not have to let that stuff get you down. We're actually going to ask in this moment as well, if we are carrying programming individually or collectively for any other beings, known or unknown, we ask to please resolve all of that, clear all of that, and to clear and resolve all of the reasons why we're doing that in the first place. We do not have to do that. There's a lot of energetic codependency that empaths have oftentimes. And we ask in this moment, as we're still working in this initial clearing process, Spirit, we ask to run an infinite relationship clearing protocol for all relationships that our souls may be in consciously or unconsciously from this or other lifetimes. So many of us are actually at a soul level in relationship with many, many other beings that we may not even know from this lifetime. Sometimes it can be in the millions of beings. This means that our soul is trying to still work out content with beings that we've been in relationship with where the karma hasn't been fully transmuted. Sometimes I've found that this can be really a burden on the soul, and I like to address it directly in this work. So we're asking for all of that content, all of that to be cleared for each of us now. I want you to continue to breathe. There needs to be some energy loosened up in the lungs, the heart, and the upper back for many of you here. I just want you to continue to allow this energy to move through you. Good. Clearing and removing, Spirit, 100% of all blocking energies. Right. Other content, other types of soul, Spirit that might be attached in, we ask to clear, resolve, transmute, alchemize. Beautiful, beautiful, yeah. Spirit, we're asking that any sense of identification that we have with our content, that this anger, this fear, this blame, this shame, this guilt is me, and therefore it's the more we identify with our content, the more difficult it is to clear. We ask that all of that would be released and resolved now. We ask also to help clear each person to a place of 100% willingness, openness, activation, allowing within the physical body, within the etheric, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual bodies now. Anchoring, grounding, the infinite grounding clearing protocol, please, Spirit. We ask for the infinite relationship clearing protocol to be performed now for each of us in regards to any blocks or interference, in regards to any extra souls, soul family, soul fragments, other beings, spirit, or any beings that our souls are in relationship with now, including those for whom we're carrying content, or we were carrying content. We ask to also resolve and transmute entirely all shared lifetimes. So if it's possible to resolve the many or several of the entire lifetimes that we're having with certain individuals at a soul level, we ask to go ahead and resolve that all now. Just breathing and relaxing. Now I want to say also, if you're not used to this work doesn't begin at the level of our immediate energy field in the body. So there's many healing techniques out there that are energy based, that are like, we're going to do a chakra clearing, or we're going to do an aura clearing, or we're going to do some Reiki on the body. And these are all good techniques. This work begins at the opposite end of the spectrum. It begins in the Akashic field. That's the total database of your soul's history. Now, some people have varying degrees of sensation with this work, sometimes at least initially. And it has to do with how prepared the present moment awareness is to receive. That's why I keep asking for each of us to relax even more. If you can come into a place of lying down right now, that's even preferable. And I want you to also stop doing any other healing techniques. If you're trying to add to the depth of this work or something by doing something else right now, I invite you to just let that go. You can do that afterwards. This is about you letting go and receiving. Sometimes it's especially difficult for healers to do that because we feel so much like it should be a strain or a struggle, or we have to force it, or we have good techniques, so why don't we keep using them? I'm like, they're all good techniques, but just sit back and relax and allow the work to move through you now. Good, good. Continue to breathe. I want to even encourage you, if you feel comfortable doing this, to breathe in through the nose and to exhale with the sound of doing that once or doing it for a minute or so. It helps to clear energetic, emotional congestion in the heart center. There's definitely emotional. So what can happen in this work, or really in any type of spiritual healing or clearing work, is that if there's emotions that we need to express, but we're not willing to express them, or we don't know how to express them yet, that can block our ability to receive spiritual healing. Once that, because it's blocked energy. Remember that no one else can ultimately do the work for us. It's not, we are divine in a physical body. So we are the ones doing our own work. And what is that work? That work is one of allowing and receptivity. It doesn't have to do with fixing anything, it has to do with being receptive. How do we be receptive? We often have to work with the energy a little bit to be able to let go more of tension in the body, tension in the emotional self. We might not even know we're carrying it sometimes, so we have to work with that energy so that we can be more released, so that we can let go. We're asking for the etheric healing team, the healing angels, the etheric chiropractic and acupuncture teams to be working with people's nervous systems and spines now as well. It's something I like to throw into this work. Yeah. So we can begin working with transmuting this energy. I want you to just, if you feel so guided, just twist around a little bit, moving the spine, moving the shoulders. If you feel tension in the upper body, just moving your head from side to side, just loosening up the back and the shoulders a little bit more. Again, this is not about fixing something. This is about letting go of some of the stress and tension in the physical or the emotional body so that we can be more receptive to this movement of the subtle energy that Spirit is wanting to do for us. Yeah, we're beginning to make more progress. Again, I'm tapping into not any particular one of you, tapping into really the group energy right now. Good, good. Let me throw in a couple of other things here that are fun. Spirit, we're asking that all astrological beliefs, birth chart issues, current transits, conjunctions, current planetary star activity for each person here, we ask you to transmute and resolve all lower aspects, all aspects that are seemingly limiting, that are available to transmute in terms of each person's individual evolution right now, into that which empowers them in their mission. We're also asking to transmute any dominance of the sympathetic nervous system, Spirit. If people are running a lot of fight or flight or freeze response in their being, we ask to transmute the programming behind that into the energy of greater parasympathetic, greater rest and digest cycles in the body. Yeah, there we go. So, when there's chronic stress, when there's trauma, when there's deep difficulties like that, some of them are past life, for sure. If we've experienced known trauma in this lifetime, it's guaranteed that we've experienced it in past lives as well. This can often cause the nervous system to really be on high alert, most, if not all of the time. That can therefore limit our ability to receive the fullness, or to reveal the fullness of spiritual consciousness within us. So that's part of our practice in those cases, to be able to work with the nervous system to help us to come back into greater balance. And when we come into greater balance, we are closer to being able to release the energy of the infinite through our being. I want you to take a deep breath, and I want you to get out of any struggling, straining, and striving right now to make something happen. That's what you've been trying to do for so long. This is your time. This is very yin work that we're doing right now. In other words, this is all about you receiving, letting go, relaxing. There is work for us to do, for sure. Remember I said earlier, if we're working all the time without being plugged in authentically into our infinite spiritual connection within, we're just spinning our wheels. It's also talked about in the Bible. This is like the person who planted their house, built their house on sand, not on a firm foundation, not on rock. And when the winds came, the waves came, the house is just blown away. If we don't build ourselves, our house of consciousness, on the energy of the infinite, the energy of spirit, our spiritual connection, we're not really creating lasting effects in our lives and in the world. They can just be taken away easily. Good. This is a challenging. No, again, nothing. I have no idea for any one of you, so I'm not about to give any particular advice saying, hey, you out there, what's wrong with you? I'm not going to do that. So please, if you're at all holding back because you're feeling like, oh, well, that guy might know something about me, no. And I don't want to know. To be honest with you, I don't want to carry... people come to clearings with me sometimes. I have no recollection of their previous sessions because I don't really want to keep that with me all the time. I'm also empathic. And so I don't want to be holding on to people's stuff. My main interest is helping us to come back into a place of better feeling. And that's what we're doing through this work now. We're asking in this moment, Spirit, authentically for this entire group, as we're still working, that any need for self-protection that this group senses in their soul records that they need to continue, therefore guarding themselves even from their highest expression in spirit, we ask that you would resolve that into a consciousness of being authentically undefended. We ask to resolve each person in this group also to a place of 100% safety, to be present and engaged, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Any negative correlations that the physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual bodies are having with each other, ways in which they may be limiting each other, we ask that that would be resolved and transmuted now. Again, all past life roots, all present life roots, all energy that is available in consciousness for this entire group right now to transmute at this level, we ask to go ahead and transmute. Breathing, relaxing. Beautiful, beautiful. Any ways in which this group is addicted to lower states of consciousness, so habituated, they feel like there's a need to be at that level very strongly, and any ways in which this group may be running at the soul level or any other level of their being, addictions to having to continue to learn through struggle, strain, difficulty, problems, challenges, pain, suffering. We ask to please resolve all of that now and resolve all of the wants, needs, desires to continue to do that. As strange as it sounds, why would we want more pain in our lives? This is what can happen when the consciousness accumulates. You see people who are acting in very irrational ways to cause more pain in their lives. It's because they're creating at the level of their own consciousness. People who are at the level of consciousness of pain create more pain. They do it automatically because that's where they're at. It's not a good or bad thing. They're not terrible. It's not something to judge people about. It's just that's what we do. If we're at the level of consciousness of fear based on any number of factors that are operating within us, our level of mastery, our level of what's going on in the subconscious, we will create at that level. We'll create more, we'll attract and send out signals to the universe, please send me more things that cause and amplify fear. We will also see through the lens of fear, see our lives through that lens. So that's the importance of shifting from the inside out and plugging in consciously every day. Spirit, we ask for the physical body for each person here to become prepared, to be a place where Spirit dwells consciously 100%. We ask that each person would be also cleared and reharmonized in terms of their doshas, in terms of their 5 elements, in terms of the 3 treasures, Spirit, harmonized fully and cleared in the 20 energetic meridians of the body. Yeah, good. I was working with someone recently and they felt an intense headache during or after this work. So this work tends to work a lot with the brain. The brain is a major interface that we have with our database. And sometimes this work is really good for the brain. It's really clearing and harmonizing for the brain, but in the short term, it can cause a lot of energetic opening in that area. Again, be gentle for yourself. I'm going to encourage you after this clearing to make sure to do some integration work. If you need to take Epsom salt bath, go out for a walk in nature, drink plenty of water, eat some grounding food for yourself, spend some time sleeping or in meditation. There are some people who feel very tired after this work. That generally passes within 24 hours, and then you feel better, you feel more energized. It's like that alchemical thing happening within you. It needs just a little bit of energy to be able to do that. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. Continuing to work here. Spirit percent of this group is open to clearing, and where are we out this initial process, please? We're about 90%, yep. So Spirit, continue to work here. Now again, each person is going to receive this work in a different way. It's partly depending on where you're at today, in terms of what needs to be cleared for you. But after doing clearings with people, often a week later or so, or before I do a future clearing with someone, I will often check them to see to what degree did the clearing actually make it through to them. It's It's an interesting question to ask. We, through this work, I work on clearing and resolving all of the karmic blocks that could come up for someone so that we can confirm at the end of a clearing, as we'll do today, that the work should not have any karmic reason in the soul records as to why it should not be fully available to the person I'm working with. However, because clearing, healing work of any kind can never be forced upon someone, I usually check someone's physical, emotional, and mental self after a clearing takes place, maybe a day, a week after the clearing, to see to what extent has the clearing made it through to that person, to what extent have they received it. This is not the same thing as saying to what extent does the person want to receive it. Everyone wants to all the good things in life, but not everybody is available to it. So sometimes this work can get blocked up, for instance, from someone based on unprocessed emotions. We can't just clear it for someone. They have to actually feel it and process it in order to become more available. And sometimes this work can help with that. We can also look at what is the specific emotion that is blocking the person from being able to receive more. And that can be interesting insight to have. Sometimes, as I said before, if there's physical toxins or there's something going on in the body, the physical body may not receive, or there's trauma in the body, the physical body may not receive the full extent of the clearing because it doesn't yet know, the person has not yet gotten to a place of processing and resolution where the body feels it's authentically safe to let go at that level. And so nothing good or bad about that, nothing right or wrong about that, but it's an important point to tell the person, look at, you need to work with your nervous system, you need to work with body-centered therapies, trauma therapy work, somatic experiencing, other types of work like this to be able to help your body. You want your body to feel like it's a safe place, but because of what has happened in the past, in your conscious or unconscious memory, your body does not feel that way yet. And we can actually tell that based on, for instance, some people may only receive 10% of a clearing in the physical body. And that's a good case there. There might be stress, tension, trauma, other issues, toxins in the physical body that might be limiting it, limiting the receptivity of the work. That number generally goes up over the course of time. Good. Continue to take a deep breath, friends. Beautiful. Beautiful. Spirit raising life force energy, positive energy of our entire spaces and energy fields. We're asking again for a deep harmonization of the energy field for each person here. A repairing, a spirit, if there's directed energy to or from any being in this group, including psychic cords, psychic attack, hexes, spells, curses, black magic, voodoo, all these types of things. We ask that all of that would be resolved and all of the reasons for that would be resolved in consciousness now. Good, good. Beautiful, beautiful, yeah. Continue to breathe and just be aware. We're asking in this moment, Spirit, for you to work on now all that needs to be cleared for this entire group. So beyond what we're even doing to get into a place of greater allowing, we're asking that all intentions that have been expressed, consciously or unconsciously, written in this Facebook group, or that people are having even now as we work, we're asking to work on the resolution of the roots of all of these issues now. Remember, all issues are states of consciousness, and the solutions are also states of consciousness. That's it. When you really turn that around in your being for a bit, you can realize how true that is. And I really believe that's even how things like food can heal people. Think about it. What is the food that causes disease? What's the food that heals us? What's the difference? Well, there's some surface differences, but I think from my own calibration of this, the difference is the level of consciousness of the food. Herbs and organic food and different types of really powerful foods have very high consciousness. So when you ingest it, It brings the body more into that consciousness and delivers that effect to people. When you're eating things of very low consciousness, there's no love in the food, factory farming, this kind of thing. That's going to bring down the vibration of your being. Same thing with thoughts, same things with emotions. There's no good or bad things here. I'm not trying to divide them into categories of that. I'm just saying that there's differences in consciousness. There's higher or lower consciousness. There we go. Working on resolving spirit everything that is possible to resolve for this entire group today. Yes, bring each person to a place of 100% receptivity, openness, availability, all levels, bodies, and minds, clearing the soul to 1,000 on the scale of consciousness, spirit, all available lifetimes, all available programs, all available beliefs, composting, transmuting, alchemizing now. Again, we also ask that each person in this group would be cleared to a place of 100% accurately revealing that which is appropriate karmically for them to clear today. So we go through this in individual work a lot, that sometimes we can be very attached to our stuff. As much as we're in suffering with it, we can be very, very attached to it. And there can be times where a person is, there's a lot of deep pain involved with the material, and this is, we can actually tell that the person is actually not fully revealing that which can be cleared for them today. Your higher intelligence will say there's a certain amount that we can clear today for you based on your evolution. There's this infinite intelligence, we know that. But the individual soul may only be 40% actually ready or willing to deal with that material. Oftentimes there's very strong emotional content around it, and we have to work with that, with the person's conscious intention or with clearing work itself to be able to reveal it. We're just asking that in a general way right now. Each one of us would be cleared to a place of 100% revealing accurately and completely all that needs to be cleared today. There we go, yeah. Spirit, apply the alchemical content of the 22 angel archetypes, resolving these universal themes for this group today. We're also asking you to apply my brain healing protocol to begin to run gentle amounts of monitoring frequency in each EEG point in each person's brain, their lobes of the brain, now to help with gentle processing, recalibration of the brainwave frequencies back into greater coherence, greater balance, greater flow. Good, good. Energy of the group is beginning to clear more. This is really good. I'm glad to see that. It's sometimes challenging to work with a group, sometimes an unknown group of people, because I make videos sometimes with clearings and I don't even know who will be part of the clearing in the future. But it's enough. So in these videos, it's kind of like we're holding a high space and we're inviting each of you into that high energy field space. And in that space, the energy can begin to get transmuted. Oddly enough, I saw a friend of mine who's a priest post that today in the Christian church is the Feast of the Transfiguration. So it's super interesting. This story of Transfiguration is Jesus coming into this high energetic space where it said his face shone with light. That's typically when that reference of the face shining, or someone cannot look at the face of the individual. This is a reference to high consciousness. And there was something revealed in the story, there was something revealed in that moment to the people around him where they knew. They just had a knowing. It wasn't like a belief thing. It was like a knowing deep in their being of what the truth of their being, what the truth of Jesus' being was. I find it interesting that we're doing this work today, right in alignment with that feast. And we're doing the same thing. Doing the same thing, yeah. Yeah, good. We're rising in consciousness, as I said a moment ago. And to quote that famous quote attributed to Einstein, We can't solve a problem at the same level of consciousness that created it because the problem is the consciousness. He didn't say that. I'm saying that. The problem is the consciousness. And so what we're doing now is we're de-investing the consciousness that we have accidentally invested recently or long times ago in things that are disempowering to us, or things that are disempowering to the life force, to aliveness, to spirit, to consciousness, to all of the associated outcomes, the effects of consciousness, which is healing, health, vitality, longevity, which is peace, which is harmonization. All of the qualities that we can associate with the divine are really the results of rising in consciousness. And so that's what we're doing now. We will not know exactly, you will never know exactly what is being cleared or resolved for you today. It's not necessary for you to know. I tell people, we could spend our whole lives focusing on what's trying to be cleared, what the problem is, but I'm like, it doesn't matter. We want to resolve and compost the energy as quickly as possible so that we can get on with it. We can get on with living our lives. I don't really care what the content is. People are like, well, wait a minute, I had this reading in this past life, I was really terrible, or something happened to me. I'm like, okay, great. That's already in the past. It doesn't matter now. It just matters as you. So the feelings of guilt and shame people can have around we holding ourselves back because we feel like we didn't do well enough or we hurt other people. I want to tell you that as you alchemize and compost this energy within yourself, you are actually healing the situation. You're healing it for the other person as well. Doesn't mean this is not one of those things of like our thoughts and prayers are with you and we're going to do nothing. But this is actually the true nature of forgiveness and healing begins at the spiritual level. And as that begins to happen within, the energy of the situation gets transmuted. So the other people who are involved in your past lives or this lifetime don't have to know about today's clearing. Wherever their souls are right now, they will get the benefits to whatever degree they're receptive. As you begin to heal, it's that concept that as you are lifted up, you draw all unto you. You don't have to go into the problem vibration in order to be empathetic with someone. You want to raise yourself into the unconditional love vibration so that you can help other people to come into that vibration as well. As we're doing that now, all of the situations, all of the relationships, all of the issues are also getting transmuted, which means that you are truly and authentically doing what is really meant by prayer and doing what is meant by good wishes sent to others on the planet. You're doing that whether people know about it or not. Matter of fact, as we do this work right now, Spirit has indicated that whenever we do this work, even one-on-one or even one person doing this work, we are transmuting the energy of the collective anyway. I just want to verbalize for us right now, and this is something I often do whether I say it or not in the recording. I will often say it before a lot of my group clearings. I'm asking that the infinite consciousness, Spirit, God, life, wherever there are individuals around, souls around the planet that are in need of this energy today, we ask to include them in this energy. We ask the energy to go directly to them now. So we're inviting. We're not using force. We're using we can actually tell, we can actually ask, I might do that in a minute, if anyone cares to know, how many individuals are actually being indicated through Spirit to receive this work today. We're not trying to force and struggle and strain against a problem. We're not also trying to force someone who doesn't want clearing to receive it. But there are people who legitimately, they need to feel relief in their own being. And we are, by holding this vibration, first receiving it, first getting plugged in. You feel that? We're getting plugged in this work today. It's part of what we're doing. We're able to look out and see all of the individuals on the planet and beyond that are needed to receive work. And we are simply seeing that they are getting the clearing as well. Beautiful, beautiful. So again, I just invite you all to bring your attention back from don't be applying any other healing techniques right now. I'd ask you not to really be doing anything other than holding the space of consciousness so that you can really receive and so that you can really open and know that there's really no effort in receiving the spiritual consciousness, receiving divine grace in this moment. There's no effort at all. Breathing more deeply, seeing if you can expand your vibration even more than before. Now, remember I said before, this is a more passive process. This is not a process of we're going to do and fix a lot of things. We are doing this process so that you can receive and that you can come into this vibration. Now, there still is an active part of the process as well. And that is what you choose to do, how you choose to behave and act and operate from this higher place in consciousness. And that is a choice that you will have to make and you will have to develop based on your choice and your mastery. So one of the things I really like to do as we begin to conclude, I don't know how long it will exactly take for us to conclude this clearing. Spirit's still clearing as we're talking. The whole time there is clearing energy moving and transmuting in this group. And the energy, as that happens, it's kind of like we're cutting away an anchor on a boat. An anchor is sort of something heavy. So say a boat had 5 anchors for some reason. We're cutting away progressively those anchors so the boat's able to move lighter, more freely. This is true of us as well. As we release the lower, heavier energy, we're able to come into a lighter, more spiritualized energy, a more spiritualized atmosphere. Are you feeling that? Maybe within yourself? Some of you, I want to say that in these clearings, not everyone will be able to easily get there in a single clearing because there may be emotional content that needs to be processed. If you're used to these clearings, some of you I've worked with before in these clearings or other types of contexts, and you do your own spiritual practices and work, some of you may feel like we're just returning into a place where we're used to being. You may be able to more easily get there. But wherever you are at, you might be feeling a shift of some kind. I want to invite you to just close your eyes for a minute and go into the heart center. I want you to feel what is happening within your own body, within your own consciousness right now. Just notice. You might feel a pulsation of energy, you might feel a movement of energy, you might feel more released. See if you can breathe out any energy that might still be stagnant within your system, and see if you can open yourself, inhaling into a higher space of being. Notice as you're closing your eyes. This is something I really notice about this work in particular, is that it can make meditation much easier. One of the reasons for that is because we're specifically working on clearing and releasing and transmuting a lot of the discordant thought energy that can affect the brain, especially the frontal lobe, can affect all around the aura of your head. So if you notice, I love to do this kind of work before meditation. This is a form of meditation anyway, but before like a seated meditation, because I'm able to, all the thoughts that might be processing through me feel like they largely get cleared, and it's easier for me to focus on the presence within me. So I want you to just practice that now. We're still holding energy for you and holding this space. You allow. So I want those of you who really are already feeling this, and I'm going to try to do this myself because I can feel this energy. I want us to just expand our heart centers more, a little bit more. Allow more of that love energy to have its way with you, to be able to rise in the heart center. I want you to feel that even for this group right now, I want you to feel a state of non-causal, unconditional love within you. If you can access that. As the consciousness rises, now unconditional love, remember, is a state of consciousness. And this consciousness of love that we're talking about here is not really an emotional feeling per se. So we're used to thinking about a love as an emotion, as like, okay, I feel love for that person because, ooh, they want to go out with me, or because, you know, whatever. But oh no, I don't feel love. You know, like our pop music. Now I don't feel love anymore because, you know, they said that they, I don't know, like Pepsi rather than Coke, or something. Now I'm upset. I don't really mean exactly that, though that kind of love is cool too. I mean a state of love that's non-causal, which means it's not caused by something outside of you. It's a state of consciousness. I'm going to actually ask in this moment that the heart center and the emotional body, as well as our overall consciousness, be cleared to a consciousness at least of 540 on the scale of consciousness, which is associated with unconditional love and joy. Now, getting to that level is dependent not only on clearing, it's also depending on how prepared our emotional body, our consciousness is to be able to access that state. So not everyone will be able to get there experientially, but if we just try, placing your attention in your heart, really feeling like your heart is expanding, and you're just sensing the presence of divine love operating within your heart. It's like there's so much love there. People can describe this experience sometimes as like you're in love with everything. You can begin to feel, as you rise in consciousness, you can begin to feel just like ordinary objects around you are just like, wow, it's so beautiful. It's so loving. Sometimes some people can get into these states after ecstatic experiences, after very deep processes. Sometimes music, going to concerts, or mood lighting and deep music, and sometimes there are states that can alter our consciousness and get us into this state more. I want you to see if you can notice that and feel that. I've created a video before about helping to clear the heart center, the emotional body to these states. Remember that there's two things happening here. There's the clearing, the resolution of the subconscious, but then there's also how prepared are you to enter into this state. That's your process. So there's a yin and a yang. The yin process is all the previous stuff. That's what we're doing in this work. The yang process is what can you do? How are you preparing yourself? For instance, I mentioned a moment ago what I'm drinking. So I'm drinking a tea made of wild chaga mushroom. It's a tree mushroom. It's not a culinary mushroom. It's called a medicinal mushroom, and also something called reishi mushroom. And I've powdered these mushrooms up and put them in water and boiled them, and so they become a tea. These mushrooms are associated with high consciousness. That's why they have such powerful healing effects on people. They're deeply rejuvenative. They change consciousness. They allow you to access higher states. They heal the body. There's lots and lots of traditional properties of these mushrooms that have been known in many cultures throughout thousands of years. So this is a practice that I use, and I've been using it recently on a daily basis. It's a yang process, so it's something I'm doing. Something I eat or something I drink is something I can do to help me to become more prepared for what the infinite is wanting to do through me. Right? So I do movement work, or I eat a certain way, or I need to rest in a certain way, so that I can continuously be prepared. And this isn't a burden. This becomes super, super enjoyable and fun. If you're doing things in life that feel like a burden, a problem, like, oh, that guy's telling me I have to meditate now. You might, if you're starting off with it, you might feel like it's a burden initially, but it becomes really, as you surrender into it, it becomes a joy, and it becomes self-sustaining, and it becomes all of the energy, the spiritual energy, the emotional energy, the physical energy that you need in life becomes abundantly available to you as you surrender into this infinite presence. It's not a religious thing. I was taking a class recently, so some of you know I'm into Qigong. It's a favorite thing I really enjoy. I was taking a 5-day training recently with my teacher, Lee Holden, and someone told him, he said that someone told him that they didn't know if they believed in Qi, Qi. It's a Chinese word for energy. Prana, Qi, Holy Spirit, life force, Reiki, spirit, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same thing. Someone said they didn't believe in Qi. So he told them, he's very grounded and anchored, I like this about him, he said, so do you believe in your own aliveness? Do you believe that you're alive right now? And they said, well, obviously, of course. He's like, how do you know? So he said, it's because you can feel there's a quality of your aliveness that makes you, you. It's more than just your flesh and bone. It's more than just, there's something kind of obvious and fully available to you, but it's something that's not fully describable intellectually. That's your aliveness. And so this is what I want to pass on to you. I want you to see if you can tap into that quality of your own aliveness in this moment. That's what we're trying to cultivate. Aliveness is spirit active within you. Spirit activated within you. Spirit flowing as you. Spirit is always present, but spirit might be a little bit dormant within you, hidden within you, suppressed from karmic stuff, from lack of awareness. So this work, as well as the practices I'm talking about here, are all about activating, bringing to the surface that energy, then eventually operating from and living from that place. Don't want to operate from that past content of fear. We have the option nowadays. We've always had the option, but we have the option even more so now of using practices like what we're doing today. Ooh, the energy is getting even stronger. Using practices like I've just been talking about, the tea, movement practice. The practices are basic, they're essential, they're available to everybody. Many of them are free. They're things that we can learn that are unique to us. Some of you might really like yoga, some of you might like hiking, some of you might like, you can't do that quite yet. Okay, so just sit and deep breathe. Imagine energy circulating around your body. These are things that we can all do no matter where we are. And as we do that, we become more in touch with our aliveness, and this sets us on a path. So that's kind of what I want to conclude. So Spirit, begin the infinite conclusion process, if you haven't already. Just bringing us all to maximum level. As we're talking, as we're spending time in this energy, by the way, more energy is becoming available in our Akashic field to be clear. That's what's the value of doing longer clearings, is that as we spend time in this space, we become progressively more and more ready and bringing up more stuff. Our higher consciousness brings up more stuff from our subconscious and says, okay, let's clear that now. I know this because I spend 5 hours or more a day in this space. When I'm on the days that I'm working, I will spend that kind of time in my own personal practice and with my clients. And it allows the energy to just continue to deepen. And I walk away from my days of working with people feeling really good, not feeling really drained. I need to replenish and I need to balance myself out, but I don't walk away feeling drained because I've been in touch with aliveness. I've been in touch with the field of infinite spirit, deepening in my own way all day. And in our own unique way, that's actually all of our practices. We're not all going to do the same things I do. We don't have to. We have our unique gifts that want to come forward. There's unique frequencies of expression in relationship, expression in the physical body, expression in career, expression in our words, that each one of us has a unique factor that has never been expressed exactly in this way on the planet before and will never be expressed exactly in this way again. And so our charge, and my charge to you, just as we conclude this recording, is to tell you that is your purpose, is to get to cultivate and get in touch with your own aliveness, with spirit active within you. This strategy that we're using today is one of the ways that you can do that. And to shine that forth as your own life more and more. That's your purpose. How you do that is secondary. What's my career? I have blocks in my career. Well, have you tapped into your own aliveness? Have you plugged into the infinite today? Oh, no, I don't have time for that. Okay, so that's the first thing. That's the first thing to do. Plug into your own aliveness. And if you take only one thing away from this video, I want you to find a way that's perfect and right for you to plug into that quality of your own aliveness every day for 5 minutes even. Doesn't have to be longer than that initially. You'll want to do more than that eventually. Touch base with the infinite, with spirit, with heaven, with whatever name you have for it. You can call it a particular being. For some people it's Jesus. For some people it's Krishna. For some people it has no name at all. For some people it's an angel. For some people it's Isis. For some people it's Mother Mary. Honestly, it doesn't matter what you call it at all, because it's all part of the infinite presence. There are going to be some practices and even some beings, some texts, some spiritual religious traditions that appeal more to you than others. And it's probably based on your preference. It's also based on your unique soul history. For me, I came into this lifetime, just inundated with Christianity. My mom, my biological mother, was a nun, Catholic nun, for 8 years in this lifetime, literally. Before I, 3 or 4 years before I was born. So that's a big deal to me growing up, to have that background of I was full on with that. And I resented that for a number of years, but I've also realized, there's something here. There's my unique path and my unique connection to this energy. But I also realize that's unique to me. And I can feel and sense now that I've risen a little bit more into that mystical way of perceiving it, I can feel that each person in their unique and right way, no matter what they call it, no matter what their practice is, when it's about love, when it's about service, when it's about these universal principles of helping people, getting clearer, getting freer, loving, not harming people, when it's about that, it doesn't matter what you call it. So find the way that's unique for you. A couple questions. I know I'm not answering many of the questions that are coming through. I will do that in the next day or two through this Facebook group. One person asking, can we do it through meditation? Sure. But the most important thing is you have to learn how it feels to be plugged in for you. Doing a certain amount of meditation isn't going to be a guarantee that you're plugged in. Doing a certain amount of anything isn't going to guarantee. I used to do I do yoga, but I would be thinking about a million other things during the whole time, during the yoga class. So am I getting plugged in during that time, or am I just sort of still being out of my body? I don't know. For some people, for meditation, if it's seated meditation, for instance, in silence, can disconnect people in some ways from their emotions or from their present experience. Doesn't happen for everybody, and meditation may still be a valuable part of your practice. For me, what I have found is that, I'll just talk personally here for a second. Another question here, will there be a replay? Yes, this whole thing is going to be archived right here on this Facebook page. It should be here in its entirety within probably a few minutes or an hour, depending on how long it takes Facebook to process it after the recording, and it will be left there. So you'll be able to watch this whenever. I will say, for me, partly based on my tendencies in life are that I'm ungrounded. I've often been out of my body, ungrounded throughout my life. And my work these days, as I mentioned a moment ago, is doing this for hours every day, which can be ungrounding. So for me, one of my primary practices, it does absolutely have to involve my body. And that's why I've so oriented towards things like Qigong and yoga, because the idea, when you're doing this in a way it's traditionally taught, you're combining mindfulness with breath and with body movement. Those three things: mindfulness, breath, and body movement. So when you're doing those things, you're tapping into your spirit, you're tapping into how you're feeling, present moment, you're tapping into your breath, and you're tapping into the physical body. That helps me to feel more integrated with the work. So Find the way that's right for you, and also find out what it means for you to really feel plugged in. Because there's no technique that can ultimately get us there. But many techniques can help us depending on what works for you. There's a moment that I was just experiencing more and more regularly in my Qigong practice. It's hard to understand exactly how I get there, but there's a moment after 20 or 30 minutes of practicing where I just feel like spontaneously a smile comes to my face and I start laughing for no reason. And that's how I know I am plugged in, I am tapped in when that happens. So to me, there's a feeling of joy. There's a feeling of just like aliveness, bliss, a feeling like I'm out of any story. If I've had fears on my mind, worries, it feels like, that's no longer, it's either no longer there or it feels like it's not a big deal. I've risen in consciousness to a place where I can rise above it and I can feel different. Now, I will say, this work that we're doing today has been a huge, huge part. It continues to be a huge part of my personal practice. For many people, no matter how much they practice, because of the amount of karma that they're carrying, it's very difficult for them to pull out of that story, but through their own intention. It's very difficult. So I would encourage you, in whatever way is perfect and right for you, if this work that we're doing today is feeling like, just tune into your body right now, tune into your being. If you're feeling like, I've really processed something, I've opened to something, I'm feeling above what I was worried about before, I'm feeling more clear, I'm feeling more resolved. Just tune into how is it feeling for you right now. For me, I feel blissful, I feel light, when I tune in, I feel mentally completely, just when I tune in and look at the energy field around my head, especially this frontal lobe area is a big area where a lot of thoughts can be, I feel completely clear. I feel like when I close my eyes, there's a feeling of energy, but there's no real thoughts happening there. And I feel alive and in the flow. And of course, I practiced also this work as well as other practices before even doing this video. And so that's gotten me into this state. And I will continue today, as a way of balancing myself, I will continue to practice more physical-based movement, get outside, walk, eat nourishing food, be aware of my digestion, all of these things. So I will say, if this work is attracting to you, please avail yourself of this work as often as you can. It's so super important. I realize for many people I work with that people are in struggle sometimes for years or decades of their lives without knowing how to get out of it. And because the roots of the problem are in our past consciousness, we don't even know what that is. We just know the results of it now. The results of it are anxiety, depression, worry, fear, limitation in life. But we have an infinite consciousness. We've often created a lot of limitation in that consciousness over time. This work very quickly, precisely, easily is able to get access to that and is able to help us resolve. And so stay tuned to this Facebook group. Watch videos. I have a lot of them posted on YouTube. There are group clearings that are done at least twice a month. These are highly valuable. I've included and instituted a subscription program recently for people so that they can do all of them. It doesn't matter what the topic is of the group clearing. I encourage people, I feel very passionate about this, do all of them, because there is going to be so much stuff that you still have to resolve in your consciousness from hundreds of thousands of past lives, that every single time one of these group clearings comes up at precisely oriented dates of the month that are aligned astrologically with deep karma clearing, there is going to be stuff for you to clear. And it's going to help to make your path so much easier that if you're committing to your practices then, if you're committing to doing prayer and meditation and spiritual reading and getting your mindset right and doing movement work and getting in transforming your eating and all that sort of thing, you're going to be given everything from the past, everything from the present is going to be working for you now rather than working against you. You're going to find yourself moving out of struggle and strain more easily. I really encourage you to do that. I encourage you, if you have questions or aren't really sure or how, if you want to talk to me personally about this video today or about where you're at in your path, People are extremely confused oftentimes about why am I having this ongoing issue in my life. I have committed my life to being able to help people to answer that, and to also giving people strategies for helping to deal with that. Whether it's my strategy, something working with me, or whether I can reflect back to this person, look at, you really need to dive deeper into this area of your life. I can tell you a lot of things through just even email contact, or especially if we end up doing a personal clearing at some point. There's a lot of things that will come through in that work that will help you to get clarity about where are you now. It can be so completely confusing. Why does life not work for me now? How to get you on course with how can life work for you. Remember, as we're concluding here, I've been saying that for the last hour probably. As we're concluding here, I just want to end with a few reminders for you. Life, spirit, God, aliveness, consciousness, source. These are all synonyms. They are the unifying principle of everything. Us with everyone, and us with this entire universe. And yet they are also immensely, they're immanent. They are right as close as it says also, again, here's the Bible reference again, it's closer than our breathing, nearer than our hands and feet. It's us. It's our own aliveness. It's our own vibration. It's within us. It's as us. It's here. We don't always sense it and feel it because there is a past. Yes, we have a past. There's stuff that's gone down. I said we were going to clear stuff today, so let me just bring that stuff theme in. There's stuff that's gone down. We've created our karma. Remember, whatever has happened to us in life, it is what we are still holding about it that is actually our karma. It's not the event. It's what we are still holding about it. And so there is no blame in any of that. We have not done anything wrong ever. We are not being punished. We are not going to be sent to hell. This is so ridiculous. None of that is true. What I'm saying is that there is a way for you to find your way out of the suffering, the problems, the challenges, the difficulties that you've had, even if they've been lifelong. As a matter of fact, just the very fact that you are hearing this video right now means that your karma is actually good. You might have stuff to clear still, but it means that you are just on the cusp of completely unwinding this whole thing. There are billions of people on the planet who will never hear this message in this lifetime. The fact that I'm saying it and just laying it on the line based on my personal experience and whatever I've learned, the fact that you're tuning into this and you're hearing this message right now means that you absolutely can be vibrant, healthy, alive, prosperous, connected, clear. You can resolve your entire database of past miscreations of consciousness in this very lifetime, in this body. And if you can just commit to doing that, it's not like you gotta do it or else. It's not like some chore. It becomes a joy. It becomes a lifestyle. And it actually, interestingly enough, all the things that you think you're seeking and wanting in life, the car, the job, the relationship, all the things that you think you're seeking in life, can be so much more easily found if you simply, again, the Bible quote once again, if you simply seek first the kingdom, which means you first tap in, plug in. You first find a way to do that in whatever's perfect and right for you. From that place, you are then put in the vibration of more revealing the spirit, the truth of spirit within you, and therefore life becomes much more effortless. You're able to attract seemingly miraculously, synchronistically, easily, effortlessly. Yes, there is action that has to take place. I'm not saying one of those new age things where you're just going to do a clearing, you're going to sit back on the couch and eat bonbons, though I love bonbons. You're not going to just sit back on the couch and expect checks to come in the mail. I don't believe in that philosophy. You're going to take action. You're going to take positive, inspired action from a place of connection, being plugged in. When you're connected with your innate aliveness, you have all of the energy you need mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually to create. Not only do you have the energy, but you actually feel like, how can I serve? How can I do more? How can I do more for others, for healing, for helping, for applying my purpose? And everything that you're looking for comes as a result of that. I'm going to leave it at that. By the way, I'm still holding my pendulum this entire time. Yes, this is a weird pendulum. Got this at a New Age bookstore in New York City. Let's just conclude. So I'm going to drop the pendulum now. I've been holding it for however long we've been on this call. I want you to take the palms of your hands, maybe with one palm over the other, and bring it to your lower abdomen, right about the navel. And just with your palms facing, touching your body, just facing in, I want you to take some deep breaths and bring your full attention into that area. Just you're bringing your attention into the abdomen. You're anchoring the energy into this place. This is known as the lower dantian. Whenever we do spiritual processes of any kind, where we're cultivating, clearing, resolving energy, this is the place in our body and energy system where we store energy and where we can anchor and ground the shifts that have taken place. It's also, just by doing this process of having your hands here and deeply breathing, if you're feeling overwhelmed mentally or emotionally at any point in your life, just this process and practice of bringing your hands here and breathing, it might take you a couple of minutes to get centered, will help you to get out of that overwhelm. I want you to just take a couple of deep breaths. Feel your energy settling into the lower abdomen. You can stay here for as long as you like. As I said earlier, I encourage you, after finishing this video, to do something to help you integrate and process this work. That could be walking, simple as walking, going out for 15 minutes of walking, or whatever you want. Could be deeper movement. It could be certainly drinking water. Could be eating something nourishing and grounding for you. It could be anything else that's guided to you. You might want to also do some journaling, because if you now apply your consciousness to reflecting on what just happened and writing it down, anchoring the feeling, because it's not always easy for us to remember this feeling. When our feelings change, which they change from day to day, it's not always easy for us to remember, wow, I felt clear, and I felt light, and I felt aligned, and I felt opened with that clearing process. It's not always easy for us to remember that, but if we write it down, we can anchor in that sensation, that feeling, and we can come back to it more easily when we want to. This is all about you continuously touching base with spirit within you, letting it unfold, letting it be birthed, letting it become the dominant force in your being, rather than all that content, all that fear stuff, all that ego stuff, all that karmic stuff. That stuff is very ripe for composting, for alchemizing, for transmuting. You no longer need to have that stuff in your being. Remember, one final thing that a question people often ask is, well, if I do too much of this clearing stuff, isn't this stuff that I really needed? Isn't this stuff that I would have benefited from keeping so that I could really work with it? And I want to say to that that's why we work with your higher consciousness. Your higher consciousness cannot and will not resolve something that should not be resolved, that would cause you more pain in the longer term. Spirit, this higher consciousness, cannot and does not work that way. The energy, by the way, is only being transmuted. It's not being cleared and deleted. It's being transmuted. So what was once fear energy, and if we held, for instance, some deep memory or pain in the past, we're not forgetting about that and then not remembering at a soul level, and then we're just going to go ahead and create it again. What we're doing is we're remembering at a soul level all of that energy. We're transmuting the pain of it, composting it into energy that serves our highest purpose. There is a differential in working with consciousness into energy that actually ends up disempowering us and energy that empowers us. It's not a good or bad thing. It's just a higher or lower thing. We want, ultimately, to be only creating energy that empowers us, now that we know what that is, And we want to eventually resolve and transmute, compost all the energy that's still in our database, still in our subconscious, still in our soul records, that is still disempowering us. We didn't know, we didn't create that stuff on purpose, we just didn't know any better at the time. So we want to resolve that stuff, and then as much as we can do, create only the good stuff now. That we do that through our own conscious mastery. And as we do that, our life becomes better and better, higher and higher, more joyful. We can still stay grounded, centered. We stay on purpose. We're in our unique dharma on the planet. And life becomes synchronistic in a way that is just beyond whatever we could have thought logically we were here for, as we surrender into the consciousness, the spirit, the Christ, the Buddha, the Krishna consciousness that's within us right now, the spirit within us, as we surrender into that, release that, birth that, live through that, all of the things that we're wanting in life become available. The healing, the manifestation, everything we're looking for becomes available. If we're trying to acquire it without doing the work in consciousness first, we're going to be disappointed. And it's going to cause, the thing about that is that's going to have to be done through struggle, through strain, sometimes through cheating, through lying, through deception. We know people who are, quote, successful, who do it that method. They're not doing it through authenticity or through integrity, they're doing it through force and through ego. And there's a lot of fallout that happens when that kind of thing happens. You can still might be able to make some money, but if you're doing it through being shady and shifty, it's going to come back to bite you. We don't want that. We want to do it authentically. So as I said earlier, friends, this video is going to be available in this group forever, as far as I can tell, to watch. Even in the future, if you want to post comments below, I will be notified to see that if there are comments. I will go back the next couple of days. If there's questions that I need to answer from your comments so far when I'm making this video live, I will answer those. If you want to be in touch with me about what I'm doing or about any advice I could give you about your unique situation, go to my website, clearingconnect.com, and send me a message. And I'd be happy to look at that. It's my whole life's work is trying to help people transmute that energy so that it can truly be empowered in life. I want to thank you for joining me today, friends. Take a deep breath. Peace and blessings. Until next time.